Today on What's the First Pick, all three rookie starting quarterbacks got wins last weekend. We'll talk about it all. And this week, it looks like two more rookies will make their debuts, Drake Maye. And wait, what's this? Spencer Rattler?
Come on.
We're also talking rookie non-QBs who had a big week 5. We'll highlight a couple of year 2 spotlight standouts as well. Have a little mock draft fun at the end. Of course, we'll start things off with everyone's favorite segment, Overreactions. But first, I'm Ryan Wilson. That's Rick Spielman coming to us from the surface of the sun, and that's Mike Renner. Good to see you, Mike. This is episode 187. Before we get going, Rick, how many days to the 2025 NFL Draft?
Mike, just so you were wondering, there are 197 hours before Hurricane Milton hits down here. 197 minutes, I should say.
Yeah, I'd say minutes. Seems more accurate.
Yeah, minutes. But also 197 days to the 2025 NFL Draft.
So, Rick, you're not bearing the lead. You have moved inland. Your family has evacuated because of Hurricane Milton. Seriously, let's hope everyone stays safe because this looks like a doozy. The storm hasn't come inland yet, but how are you guys doing? How's everyone around the western part of the state they're doing in Florida?
Yeah, no, everybody's bearing down. Unfortunately, it's becoming the norm, it seems like. You know, we've had over the last month, Debbie come through, then Helene came through and knocked some of the island out. So this one's a doozy, but most importantly, the people up in that Tampa, Sarasota area, just thoughts and prayers out to them, and everybody stays safe. And hopefully everybody takes heed to the mayors and to all the people in charge when they tell you to get the heck off the island or to evacuate. Do that, because I can understand the wind, I can understand the rain bands coming through, but one thing that you can't fight is this storm surge. And seen it firsthand numerous times, and the water, you can't win versus water. So
water's undefeated.
Water's undefeated. So that's the one thing. It's, you know, it's better to be overcautious, and hopefully it isn't as bad, but it looks like it's going to be a bad one, and it's going to actually go through the middle of Central Florida and affect the Orlando area and potentially up through Jacksonville as well. So prayers and thoughts out to everybody, and make sure that you stay safe. And Ryan, I had me looking out the other way to the hurricane coming through, and you can see the winds and this little body of water I'm on, the waves starting to pick up. I felt like I should be on maybe the Weather Channel and do that gig. But unfortunately, my wife said, why don't you stick to what you know, in quotes, if you know, and think about what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, and as you explained to me yesterday, your wife's pretty tough, to the point that you would not mess with her, and that told me all I needed to know. So I'm glad she's keeping you in line.
Well, when she's sitting there shoveling 50-pound sandbags all day, and I'm sitting there deadlifting them about 40 yards down to my car because it was a madhouse to get sandbags, it was a pretty good mental toughness test.
You're all about mental toughness tests for sure. Our buddy Lee Doosville has family in Tampa. I was talking to him today. He said they're down south. Debo's brother's in Tampa. Your brother get out, Debo?
He's staying with me. He's out.
All right, well, you win some, you lose some. So hopefully he's safe, but he has to stay with Debo. But yeah, everyone stay safe, and hopefully we'll get through this and can focus on things like the NFL Draft to take your mind off of that. So before we get going, though, glad to have Mike here with us. And if you want to see more of his handsome mug, Rick, after you get through this hurricane here, check him out every day on Pushing the Pile, the CBS Sports NFL podcast he does with Kyle Long, former first-round pick, played for the Bears for a while. They're live every Monday through Thursday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Check it out wherever you get your podcasts, and enjoy watching those guys. All right. It's time for it. Everyone's favorite segment, Overreactions. Premise is pretty simple. We have a couple topics from the NFL weekend. Rick doesn't know what they are. Get his thoughts in real time. Let's get to it. And Rick, I thought the hurricane had beaten us because Overreactions was going to be jam-packed this week, but you said, hold on a minute. And I'm interested to hear what Mike says, too, because Mike's a lifelong Packers fan. I have some questions about Aaron Rodgers being a cancer to the teams that he's on, but we'll talk about that in a second. First things first, Robert Saleh got fired. According to reports, they lost that game in London. That wasn't reported, that we saw that with our own eyeballs. But according to reports, he was going to demote Nathaniel Hackett, who for some reason has a job in the NFL, turn to Todd Downing. He did that, walked across the hall. I don't know if they're unrelated or not. But Ambassador Woody Johnson, that's what he goes by now, fired Robert Saleh yesterday, Tuesday morning, and they had security escort him out of the building. Excuse me. So 2 questions. Did the Minnesota security escort you out the building? And what are your thoughts about firing Robert Saleh when the defense hasn't been the problem?
Yeah, well, just so you know, I got fired about 7:30 in the morning. I didn't leave till 9 that night, so I was waiting.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like the security people told me just lock the building up when you get ready to go.
They had you for the day, so they'll get their money's worth that last day.
Yeah. They got their money's worth that last day I was there. But no, this was, it's an interesting point that you bring up, ambassador, because I believe Ambassador Woody Johnson is ambassador to the UK. So the one thing, he probably has all of his peeps over there and all the people that he knows in the UK, and I'm sure they're having tea and crumpets up in the owner's suite, watching a not so good performance by the New York Jets. And I don't think that had anything to do with it. If it did, then that's pretty shallow to fire a guy. But this, to me, is the most significant over Rick action that I've seen to date. They're playing, I believe, on Monday night, the Buffalo Bills. And if they win, they're in the lead in the AFC East. So, and I don't know if it was Robert Saleh's doing. I mean, as far as him trying to make a decision, if it's true that he's going to fire or demote Nathaniel Hackett and move up Todd Downing, who was the OC in Tennessee, because I don't think the defense was the issue. It's been the offense, and the offense has been anemic, even with Aaron Rodgers through these first 5 games. Now, they look like a football team and an offensive football team, I believe, against the New England Patriots a couple weeks ago. But that's a rebuilding team. But, boy, it is early to pull the plug only 5 weeks into this. And you talk about a team that is all in, and we talked about it through all of the offseason on all the moves they made. This is definitely an all-in move. And usually you see that surge after a coach is fired, that next week that team somehow comes out and plays better for a week, but that usually doesn't last. You know, there's been some talk about Jeff Ulbrich being a head coaching candidate over the last couple of years, but he was a head coaching candidate or did the head coaching job down at the Senior Bowl. So I read an article about him talking about that experience. So who knows? We'll see what this happens, but this could be the biggest misstep I could remember in a while if this backfires after they fired Robert Saleh. And I do understand this, though. If the players have lost interest in the coach or not listening to the coach and he's lost that locker room, then maybe they're trying to salvage something. But knowing this move and the move that the owner made, and supposedly the owner only, I didn't even know Joe Douglas knew this was coming. This is a major move that shows you they're all in. If this blows up, then expect the whole thing to blow up after the season and start from scratch.
I'm going to follow up in a second about Joe Douglas because I have a question for you for that. But now I want to ask Mike, as I mentioned, lifelong Packers fan. Mike, you tell me where I'm wrong and then offer your thoughts. So Aaron Rodgers was not happy when they drafted Jordan Love in Green Bay. It felt like he wanted Matt LaFleur to tailor the offense to Aaron Rodgers, who previously had gotten Mike McCarthy to run out of town because of the antiquated offense he didn't like there. LaFleur sort of let Aaron Rodgers do what he wanted to do, and then the offense sort of evolved as Aaron was there in the later years, won 2 MVPs. And then we get to New York. Prior to that, the Broncos hired Nathaniel Hackett under the assumption, presumably, that Aaron was going to go out to Denver. Didn't happen. Nathaniel Hackett got fired there because he was a train wreck, it seemed, at least from afar. Nathaniel Hackett ends up in the Jets. Aaron Rodgers arrives. The offense is set in 2014, it feels like. And all of his old buddies are there running 4.8 40s on the outside. I don't want to call it Alan Lazard. So tell me where I'm wrong and tell me if this is deserving of Robert Saleh getting fired or is this an overreaction?
Oh, it's a massive overreaction. To me, this is something smells like very off to me about this. Like this feels almost personal in like the whole way they went about it, the perp walking him out of the building with security when anyone with 2 eyes can watch this Jets team and know exactly where the problem is. It's the same guy who had a mess of a team before he came to your team. And Nathaniel Hackett in this offense. I watched the tape against the Minnesota Vikings over the weekend. There were no. It was about the most outclassed I've seen an OC versus a DC all year long. He had no answers, now Aaron Rodgers obviously didn't play great himself, but the vast majority of plays, there is no. It was just Brian Flores knew exactly what they were going to be doing. Basically, there was just no answer that the Jets had offensively, and so maybe it's the guy that has never proven to be a capable offensive mind at any stop he had along the way. Not the guy whose defense has been top 3 every single season he's been the coach, right? Like that guy, his side of the ball is great. Usually when a guy's side of the ball that he's responsible for is doing well, you applaud them for that and you try to make changes. That's when like you fire the OC. That's when you make changes to that side of the ball to recycle and see if you can get new ideas there. It wasn't Robert Saleh's fault the way things have gone in New York this season. And to me, firing him when they did, it speaks of something had to be happening behind closed doors that we don't know about, because if you're really all in on this season, like if you really are, then you do everything you can not to fire the head coach, right? Because no head coach has ever gotten fired midseason, then the interim come in and all of a sudden everything's good and hunky-dory and they make the playoffs, win Super Bowl. That just doesn't happen. Flat out in the NFL, you can't do that midseason and expect that locker room not to have some big divisions in it.
I didn't mean to chuckle while you were talking, but Debo unceremoniously flashed a picture of Nathaniel Hackett, who looks like he's incognito. I think it was a shot at me because he is as bald as a cue ball.
Yeah. If he had a beard and some glasses on, I thought that was you, Ryan Wilson.
Jeez, Debo, what are you doing here? By the way, Mike, I saw you started the question. Maybe this is because of your allegiance to this man. Are you pointing any fingers at Aaron Rodgers, or are they all at Nathaniel Hackett?
Well, that's why I said it had to be something behind closed doors. Now, if it's Woody Johnson versus Robert Saleh, or if it's Aaron Rodgers versus Robert Saleh, because obviously everyone knows Nathaniel Hackett's only there because Aaron Rodgers, right? I mean, we don't have to beat around the bush there. That's the reason he's there. That's the reason Allen Lazard's there. That's the reason that Randall Cobb was there last year. It's like he has his guys that he trusts, and to a fault, and obviously to a fault with the way the Jets' offense has looked this season. So, yeah, you can place a lot of blame on Aaron Rodgers. When his hand-picked OC is terrible, that's his fault, right? So I think he's playing the quarterback position well, though. Like, if you just put him in an offense that was functioning, he's not missing a lot of throws. He's not, like, playing poorly in terms of his decision-making. It's just an offense that really is not giving him options right now to make plays. So it could be turned around. And, again, it could have been turned around by firing Nathaniel Hackett and putting some different offensive ideas there in that room. Now what they did this decision, like, this is flat out going to be a dumpster fire the rest of the year, in my opinion.
I think real quick, I think if Aaron Rodgers just would have hugged Saleh back, that this wouldn't have happened. So it comes down to the hug, in my opinion.
I don't know if you're kidding or not, but that was not a great optic. I know a lot of things happen on the field. I knew you were kidding, but it wasn't a great look. I'll say this. The reports that the Jets wanted to hire Arthur Smith as a sort of an overseer of the offense, and of course he took the Steelers job. My issue is this. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is interested in listening to anyone that doesn't tell Aaron Rodgers what he wants to hear. And Nathaniel Hackett is the patsy. I mean, he's the Lee Harvey Oswald of this offense, except unfortunately Robert Saleh was the innocent bystander in this case. All right. One more thing, Rick, I wanted to ask you. You mentioned Joe Douglas. Is it wild that Joe Douglas isn't involved in this situation, or do you get the sense that maybe, given your experience as general manager, maybe Joe Douglas was in self-preservation mode?
I don't know. It sounded like Joe Douglas didn't know this was coming either, and this was purely from the ownership. So if your head of football operations, your general manager, is not in the loop on what's going on, I know that Woody Johnson came out and said this is the most talented team the New York Jets have had in a long time. But if you're not having your own general manager, head of football operations involved in this decision, then what's that say about your belief in the general manager?
It's crazy. It doesn't make sense. Would you be angry if you were Joe Douglas, if in fact you weren't involved?
Very, very.
Are you having a talk with the owner, or you're just saying?
Yes,
okay.
I'm going to ask why. Yeah, I don't hold any punches. Tell me why, and at least let me express my opinion. Ownership are always going to make the final decision on the coach, but at least ask me my opinion on it. Now, maybe they did. It wasn't reported. We all are just speculating here. But if it just came into my office and said, hey, I just let Robert Saleh go, then I'm going to be really upset because you didn't ask my opinion.
All right, one last thing before we move on. If Kirk Cousins, for example, had come to you and Zimmer and Shermer, whomever was the people making the decisions, and said, I want Nathaniel Hackett, whatever his version of Nathaniel Hackett is, my OC. Are you listening to Kirk, or what are you doing? Like, how do you navigate that? Because Kirk obviously was a franchise quarterback and important to what you were doing. Not Aaron Rodgers level, but certainly close enough.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. But the head coach is, in my opinion, responsible for putting that staff together. So if he's getting input, but he has to do what he thinks best for the football team. And I understand Aaron Rodgers, future Hall of Famer, could have some major input in that. And in fact, a lot of teams that have an established quarterback, when they go through a head coaching change or even an offensive coordinator change, will ask the opinion or maybe have the quarterback involved just to hear him. But that doesn't mean that he's going to be part of the final decision that the head coach or whoever's making that decision makes.
Michael, I'll ask you one quick question before we go to break. Is Aaron Rodgers the quarterback of the Jets in 2025?
No, I don't think so.
No.
I think it's done.
I don't think so either. I think he right? He doesn't like losing. I used to say when he was with the Packers, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but sometimes in games later in his career in Green Bay, if they were down 3 scores at halftime, it felt like he sort of mailed it in at times, and he said, all right, I'll just see you next week. And there wasn't a lot of effort there. I see that look on his face now, and this is just someone on the outside speculating.
Yeah, he goes into ruts and kind of takes his ball and goes home, sort of thing.
All right. Let's take a quick break, Debo. When we come back, we'll get to another overreaction right after this.
Welcome to JJ's.
I'll have a... Wait, there's no way I can get a burger?
No chance, but you can have the NFL on CBS streams live on Paramount+. Oh, hang on. There's a toy.
All right, overreaction number 2. And Mike, I'm going to come to you first on this since you have your feet in both the draft and NFL world. Drake Maye is going to start. I heard rumblings a couple weeks ago this might be a thing. Rick, you'll be happy to learn. I'm sure you watched it in your travels. Mike and I were on HQ yesterday, and both of us agreed that Drake Maye shouldn't start. Rick, you've said the same thing. Here's some not-so-fun facts for you that I dug up real quick. Through the first 5 games with Jacoby Brissett, this Patriots offense is 28th in EPA per dropback, 26th in success rate, 32nd in completion percentage. They've thrown 2 touchdowns total, Jacoby Brissett has. Tied for last with the Dolphins on that number, 32nd in explosive play rate, 31st in sacks allowed. And the QB has been pressured 48% of the time, which is also dead last. Mike, explain to me why this makes sense if you're the New England Patriots.
I don't think it does, truthfully. I mean, it makes sense because he's good at football. And truthfully, I think, you saw it even in the preseason, does a lot of things in the passing game better than Jacoby Brissett. So if you're trying to win games right now, that's the only thing that makes sense about it. But to me, that's not the decision, and that's not why they even benched him in the first place. They benched him because what Tom Brady said at the beginning of the year, you develop quarterbacks. You have to have a plan, and it's not a plan to get them ready for, week 6 this year. It's a plan to get them ready before year 3 or 4 to win a Super Bowl in those years, right? That's kind of like the holy grail. It's having that guy who's that good that lets you build that team around him for those years of his career. And I just think when you're weighing the options of play versus not play, you've seen a lot of people ruined by playing them earlier. Not ruined, but just like bad habits develop when you're in a situation that is too big of a leap for you. Guys are supposed to develop at the rate, incremental rate. That's why in baseball you have single A, double A, triple A, because not everyone can go straight up and be the guy. And that's why, you've seen with some of the rookies, Bo Nix, Jayden Daniels, 5 years of college they needed to get to the point where then they're ready for the NFL. So only 2 years for Drake Maye as a starter and, 2 years in a very gimmicky offense, I'll say, at North Carolina that didn't really prepare him a lot for what he was going to be doing in the NFL. So for all those reasons, there's not a lot of downside to letting him sit the whole year, right? Like maybe guys do need to play, and maybe, he'll struggle a little bit more top of year 2 than he would year 1, but you subject him to a big injury risk right out the gate here. You subject him to developing bad habits to protect himself versus pressure and things of that nature. That, I don't know, I just don't think it's worth it, right? When guys like Patrick Mahomes don't play their entire rookie season, then win MVPs year 2, it's basically the guy has it or he doesn't. And holding him back for 1 year isn't going to change that developmental trajectory, in my opinion.
Yeah, we say it all the time now, fit matters. Rick, let me throw these numbers at you. And also you can counter our buddy Pete Prisco, who says unequivocally that rookies should play, and you see who you have, and if they can't take the heat, then they're not worth it, which is even by Pete Briscoe standards, something incredibly stupid to say. But here we go. This is a terrible situation if you're Drake Maye. Patriots pass blockers have allowed the highest quarterback pressure rate and unblocked pressure rate this season. They're playing the Texans this week. The Texans defense has generated a 42% pressure rate this season, the highest in the NFL. So again, I know you're anti-play Drake Maye, but how are you, if you're going to play him, how are you going to protect him?
Tell him to duck because he's going to be getting hit a lot. This to me it doesn't make sense to me because they're not going anywhere. They don't have an offensive line, and that just speaks volumes of the pressure rate you just talked about. Who's his receivers outside? Is there anyone that has really stepped up? And they got one running back, and he has a fumble issue, and Ramondre Stevenson. So this is, to me, a disaster waiting to happen. I understand, throw him out there, let him learn. Well, how's he going to learn when he's on his back 50% of the time?
I mean, we talked about the Jets snaps he took, and those are mop-up duty. He looked terrible.
Yeah, it's different. Everybody was hyped up, the preseason. Well, when you watch the tape and you break it down, he's taking 2 or 3 hitches in the pocket going against guys that are on NFL rosters anymore. So he's not going to have that kind of time because he's going to get hit in the face if he sits there and tries to hitch up, waiting for a receiver to come open. I just hope this doesn't turn into a Bryce Young situation that we saw develop down in Carolina last year.
Or Mac Jones.
Mac Jones had wouldn't he go? Mac Jones had a really good
had a good rookie
year.
season, and then they brought in Matt Patricia, and somehow that didn't work. I didn't see that coming. Yeah, hopefully he can stay healthy, to Mike's point, and hopefully mentally he can stay healthy in terms of not – because Sam Darnold talked about seeing ghosts several years ago, and Sam Darnold's balling out because, once again, fit matters. And, Mike, would you be okay if he came in – I sort of said week 15. That's after their bye week and after they, they're clearly out of the playoffs. You have a month there. You let them sort of go there.
Yeah, I was thinking, once you're officially eliminated from the playoffs, I think that's a good date to where after that, there's no pressure either way, right? It's like you win, you lose. Everyone knows that the season's the expectations are just try to get better at football. So with that, you take a lot off his plate just from a mental standpoint, because putting him in right now with how it's gone, you're basically saying we're putting you in because what we had was worse than you, right? Or we expect an upgrade. So if he's not an upgrade, are they going to then go back to Jacoby? It's one of those situations where I think the expectation is now he should turn things around. And that's another thing you don't want to be putting on a rookie, that with his sporting cast that he has to go out there and win you games. Right. Sometimes that's just not going to be an option, right, for this team right now.
There's no turning back. The only thing is they can't go back to Jacoby Brissett. They made this move, and they have to be all in now. Because the worst thing you can do is play him now. But what's even worse is that you yank him 4 or 5 games from now and then have him sit the bench again. So that's horrible. It's like what happened to Bryce, down in Carolina. They benched him. And Andy Dalton, was great the first week, and he's given some spark, but they're still the Carolina Panthers that are a long way away from competing to win anything. And if they go back to Bryce, I don't know. Was that the right move to make? So, but the worst thing that New England can do is, one, play him now, and the second worst thing is to yank him 3 or 4 weeks from now when he's getting his arse handed to him because he's on his back 50% of the time he drops back in the pocket.
A couple things.
I'll just say this, though.
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Real quick. The Patriots defense is good, right? So they're seeing in practice if he's ready. They are not – it's not easy for him in practice, I'm guessing, with what he has up front with the Patriots, who he's going up against, that if he really is outplaying Jacoby Brissett by a good margin, it has to be tough to tell the team every single week, hey, yeah, we know this guy looks better in practice. We know this guy's moving the ball, whatever. At some point, that is going to just compound on the guys in the locker room. That I think that could be a part of it too, that maybe he does look considerably better, and it's just going to be difficult. So from a Patriots perspective, if you're a Patriots fan, that may be a silver lining for you, is that they're seeing him every single day, and they may be just saying, hey, he's really outplaying the guy that's the starter right now.
Are you allowed to hit quarterbacks in practice?
No. And the other thing too is let's not overreact at the end of the season when we label him a bust after.
No. And look, don't forget, and this feels like 50 years ago, Daniel Jones's first start, I think it was against the Buccaneers. he went absolutely crazy. Maybe the best game of his career. And everyone had to apologize after week 1 about getting Daniel Jones wrong. So hopefully he plays well. Hopefully they can protect him. Hope ain't a plan. I get all those things. And Drake Maye is 21. And I think he has a chance to be good. But, I say to him blue in the face. Fit matters. And if you throw him out there in the situation, it would be hard for any quarterback to survive. We shall see together. I don't think Jacoby Brissett could go back in because he has 47 broken bones. So it's going to take a while to heal those things. And also, Mike, I think Rick is getting paid by the number of times he says Bryce Young. So he's up to 4 already. So he's got $400 coming to him. But I want to touch on something real quick. And Debo reminded me, so you don't think it's just me, Mike. From one former first-round pick to the current first-round pick. A couple weeks ago, someone on this podcast, not named Ryan or Rick, said that Caleb Williams should be benched. Caleb Williams heard that apparently, and he has gone absolutely crazy since. So, Mike, do you want to apologize to Caleb and all our coworkers who are Bears fans? Chris Hassel, Joe Musso, Tom Fornelli.
Did I say he should be benched?
Debo.
I don't think I said that.
Debo, what did he say?
I got to get the language right. Mike, if you want to clarify.
It's a tough pill to swallow, I think. Right?
And you said it
something
on,
of that nature. And I said if it continues down the path that Bryce Young went down, you don't want to subject him to that.
Mike sounds like
and it hasn't continued down that path.
Mike currently sounds like he's at a political debate trying to parse his words. Yes. So Debo's looking up the actual words. In the meantime, let's talk quickly about Spencer Rattler. I didn't mean to rattle you there. So I'll let you sit this one out for a second, Rick, because I know Mike and I were like-minded about Spencer. I think I had him as a second or third round pick by the time it was all said and done. Are you okay skipping over Jake Haener if that's actually what happens now that Derek Carr has this oblique injury, Mike, or would you prefer to see Jake out there?
I'd rather see Spencer. Jake was actually drafted higher, which is kind of wild in retrospect, just when you look at their competing skill sets. But then also so was, I'm blanking on who the Saints also drafted in the 4th round out of Notre Dame, the one quarterback.
The skinny guy.
What's his name?
Ian Book.
Ian Book, there you go. Ian Book is also drafted higher. So
by the way, sorry to interrupt you, Mike, but you know it's bad when a Notre Dame quarterback is so mid, as the kids say, that Mike can't even remember his name. Okay, go ahead.
But yeah, Rattler's just he's got a much better arm, and you just watch how this offense is sort of constructed right now. It's a lot of deep balls, and when you have 2-4-3 wide receivers, and you're running 2 wide receiver sets primarily, like that's where you're going to want to throw the football. So Haener, much weaker arm. I mean, truly more of like an underneath game manager, can make a few plays in a pinch sort of guy. But I mean, they've both been under Clint Kubiak same amount of time, right? I know Haener was drafted a year earlier, but same offense, new offense coordinator this year. So I'd roll with Rattler. He looked good in preseason, but it is still a rookie either way. That it wouldn't surprise me if they roll with Haener just because a little bit more experience at this point.
So, Rick, tell me where you are on Haener versus Rattler, because I think you probably liked Haener a little more at some point during the draft process the year before, but I think you came around on Spencer. And before, quickly, I got to tell this story because I don't know if Mike's heard it. My favorite Spencer Rattler story. At the Combine, I'm just minding my own business, standing there off to the side. Spencer comes up to me and says, "Hey, man, I appreciate you having my back," because I had been talking him up the whole draft process. And then he points that over there to Rick. He goes, "That guy? Not so much." Loved it. All right, Rick, go ahead.
Spencer Rattler, I'm going to give him credit. He looked better than Haener in the preseason. But again, we're going off the preseason. My biggest issue is not Spencer Rattler being able to throw the ball. I think he's a good enough athlete. He's not going to make many plays with his legs. But his decision-making, and will he be a turnover machine or not? Because to me, he was a turnover machine and made poor decisions in college.
Had nothing.
And he can't do that at the NFL. So I'm anxious to see. I'm not questioning his arm talent. I'm questioning his decision-making and his processing. And can he prevent turning the ball over like he did in college when he gets the start?
I get it. Again, the offensive line was banged up in South Carolina. He had Xavier Legette and no one else. Their other wide receiver hurt. I got to make excuses.
Excuse.
Yeah, I know. I get it.
Excuse.
He does have to limit turnovers. There's no doubt about it. Better athlete than perhaps the 4.9 that he ran.
If he wins his first game, you should come on the podcast with a Spencer Rattler jersey.
Done. Didn't have to sell me. I got 3 right over there waiting to be used. All right, let's get back to the topic at hand. Debo has some evidence he'd like to submit.
Yeah, I think, the account here may have editorialized a little bit with Mike's takes, but we'll let him chime in.
33rd team.
Video.
Yeah, he was
No,
on
no video here, but just wanted to show the
So at
tweet.
no
that-
point, I think I literally replied to this because I was getting a lot of people saying, I said, at no point did I actually say to bench him. They editorialized by saying, consider benching him. And I said, it's like what Bryce dealt with because this was 2 weeks in. And it was. He was under fire.
I
But
didn't
they
hear an
changed it around.
apology in
I
there,
said,
Rick.
I hear
I feel like I had
crawdadding.
no
What? Do you ever see those crawdads in the pond? When someone comes, they start pedaling backwards with their pinchers out.
I think we got a new nickname, Debo, for Renner via. All right. So in Mike's defense, you did not say that. You just got screwed over by the 33rd team after you did the podcast.
I did. I remember. I texted I was pissed because I was like, I know this like exactly. I remember texting their producer because I was like, dude, you hung me out to dry. That was not. Of course, I'm not saying bench him after 2 games. It's crazy. I'm saying like, at some point, if it's going down the same path, you got to do it before what happened to Bryce Young, right? You don't last 17 games of him getting his head beaten in before you decide, hey, now we pulled the plug 2 weeks into year 2. So that was more the point of it.
Ryan, I didn't know the media twisted the words of other media people.
Lamestream
I know
media,
it is
yeah.
from my old job. They used to twist the hell out of what I said, but geez.
Well, this is what happens when you go on 33rd team and you don't promote your podcast. And that's a shot at Rick, not at you, Mike. That was last year. Debo, do we want to do one more overreaction? Do we got to move on?
Let's go to break.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back and talk about these rookies, including Caleb Williams, who had a big week. We'll talk about that right after this.
Bench him.
Love football. This is the best time of the year.
This is as big as it gets. The stuff of absolute dreams.
All right, let's take a look at these rookie quarterbacks who started last week. All 3 of these young men won football games. Caleb Williams played the Carolina Panthers. As Rick noted a moment ago, Andy Dalton, the fever dream has broken. He's okay. He wasn't great, but Caleb certainly was a lot of fun. 28-29, 304, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, ran 5 more times for 34 yards. My notes are basically this. He keeps getting better each and every week. He still at times doesn't want to throw on time, but when he does, the ball comes out. The ball's where it's supposed to be. He's more accurate each and every week. The touchdown to DJ Moore on that deep over was a fun little play. He saw it. He threw it right on target. The rest is history. I thought he missed some throws in the red zone. Cole Kmet was open on a little sit there, but I don't know if that was a read or not. Threw it to his left and it was incomplete. But overall, Rick, you have to feel pretty good if you're a Bears fan with the progress he's made. And I'll just note this quickly. First 2 weeks when Mike was anti-Caleb, 56% completion percentage. Now he's completing 2/3 of his passes, has 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions to start. Now he's 5 interceptions, only 2 interceptions the last 2 weeks. What do you got?
Yeah, Mike's coming out of that underneath the rock with his claws are coming hard from crawdadding on us here.
Crawdad.
Yeah, no, he's getting better every week. He still misses, I think, some throws that he should be able to make, but the 2 touchdown throws to DJ Moore were impressive. The thing that impressed me the most is his movement in the pocket and his ability to avoid people. And he's not running backwards like he was earlier in the season. At least he's moving sideways and going forward, and he is keeping his eyes down the field, looking for open targets. So I think each week he has gotten better, and I think that'll continue as he goes through the season.
What do you think, Mike?
I'll also just add, I think each week the defenses he's faced have gotten worse. I think that's a part of it too. It's like they're finally keeping him upright because the pass rushes they're facing. I mean, the Carolina Panthers haven't gotten pressure on anyone, and that's like he finally looks like the pockets he's throwing from look like what he was accustomed to at USC back when he won the Heisman, right? Like he's great, and I think that's why you're seeing his accuracy issues go down, is because the internal clock can be on his time finally, and he can take what he needs to. And you see the comfort level just going through the roof. And so you're hoping that because he's getting that confidence, that when it does change, and I think it'll change against the Jaguars this week. I think they're, a talented pass rush. When that is the case, or is it next week, whatever week they play. Whenever that is the case, I think you're hoping that the comfort level stays, because his accuracy is much improved from early on in the season. It's because the wheels aren't spinning as fast. So you're hoping that the confidence that he's gained continues even when he does face pressure and he finds more answers.
I think it's going to be a recurring theme on the show when we have Mike on, but I think Mike is secretly a Tyson Bagent guy, and that's why he wanted to bench Caleb.
Oh, Bagent's great.
Yeah, I knew it.
I think he's nasty,
knew it.
yeah.
I knew it. All right, speaking of another young man that Mike loves, and Rick, I'll let Mike go first on this. Bo Nix, or as we like to call him if you're old, Ferris Bueller. Look, man, I don't want to crap on Bo Nix because he's taking what the defense is giving him. He was down 10-0, but when you're facing Gardner Minshew, that's like being up 17-0. So I get it. He sort of came back. I think Patrick Surtain had a lot to do with that. He was, in terms of air yards, he was ranked near the bottom last week among all quarterbacks. Whatever. He just takes what the defense gives him. I'm not going to dock him for that. He's getting better each week. I thought the deep ball to the rookie, Tony Franklin, on the left side that got Sean Payton so fired up, it almost was a touchdown. So those sort of things I'm not worried about. I don't care about them yelling at each other. I think that's good. But, Mike, sell me on Bo Nix's progress because he is actually getting better. 19 and 27, 206, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions.
Yeah, I think Nix is going to have to be a guy that kind of thrives the same way he did at Oregon, which is just methodically making the right decision quickly every single time. And that's, Sean Payton's offense. That's like what Drew Brees did for 15-plus years. But the problem was early on in the season, he was throwing the ball to the other team. Like flat out, like he was just missing defenders. That Seahawks game was a disaster in that, and a couple of games after that. But since then, like even in the rain, he couldn't hold on to the football, but he wasn't missing defenders, wasn't, making bad decisions with football in this game. Really didn't put the ball in harm's way at all. So I think that's the biggest thing. Can that processing that was, this plate speed we saw at Oregon that was so quick and so efficient in terms of like he just never put the ball in harm's way that last year at Oregon. If you can see that guy in the NFL, you can be effective by continually passing, underneath those checkdowns that he's known for. You can do it, but you really have to be perfect. And so it's going to be difficult for any rookie to do. It's more just, can we see the growth from him throughout the season? So obviously he doesn't have like the ceiling of guys like Jayden Daniels, Caleb Williams. Like he doesn't bring that level of tools to the table. But I think you saw the deep ball that he threw was pretty darn good. And he threw a couple more after that, the touchdown and one to Cortland Sutton on the sideline, that he has that to his game. If you really do start to have defenses really come up and play heavy on that underneath stuff.
A couple of things to always forget this. Caleb Williams, quickly, we do this thing called pop or drop, Mike, where pop's good, drop's bad. Caleb, Rick, what do you got?
Pop.
Mike?
Pop.
Okay, 3 pops there. We'll do Bo Nix in a second after Rick talks. Rick, I just want to note this. Bo Nix has completed 12 of 44 passes that have traveled 10 or more air yards this season. That's second lowest of any quarterback with at least 40 downfield passes since 2018. That's according to Next Gen Stats. And the reason I bring that up is, do you feel comfortable with Bo Nix if you're behind and you need to push the ball down the field? Because right now, I don't, but that doesn't mean he can't get there.
No, I think it's a progress because he did miss a touchdown throw, an easy throw. A guy, I can't remember what the receiver was wide open going down the left-hand side.
Tony Franklin.
Yeah.
That's what got Sean Payton angry, that play.
Yeah, well, because he missed that throw. It should have been an easy layup throw. But he did make some nice throws. He's making progress. But I don't think he's not Jayden Daniels. He's not Caleb Williams. I think he'll be a solid starter in the league. But I don't think he's going to be a guy that can carry a team on his back.
All right, I'll let Mike go first because I'll just give you a little forewarning. Last week I had in the rain against the Jets, I had Bo as a pop. Someone else had him as a drop inexplicably. I thought he was probably mad at George Payton, but he said he wasn't. So, Mike, you go first. Pop or drop for Bo Nix in this game?
Pop.
Rick?
Drop.
You're not giving a drop. Are you seriously?
I'm giving him a drop.
For why do you hate Bo Nix?
I don't hate him. I'm looking at these other 2 guys and he's nowhere near there, and he's missing still too many easy throws.
I'll give him a pop. So that
was a drop by Franklin. I'll defend him. That was a good throw.
That was not a good throw.
Tony,
not a good throw.
Drop.
I think Sean was mad because he said afterwards he wanted it to be to the boundary side, not to the field side. I don't know why that would get him so fired up. Maybe just because he wasn't following the rules. Either way.
Oh, he found the right receiver. There was no one within 10 yards of the guy in the end zone.
Yeah, it was. I'm not going to ding Bo for that. You have something out against Bo, so I look forward to once you get back into your house to Mike egging your house. All right, I think common sense prevailed on that. Bo won 2-1 on the pop drop there. Next up, Jayden Daniels and Rick. Since you are solely responsible for Jayden Daniels being in Washington. By the way, I was talking to our boss's boss, Debo's boss, EK, who we know very well, Eric K., lifelong beleaguered Commanders fan. And I told him after the last game, when Jayden played as well as he did, that Rick has requested your next born kid. And he said they're just going to change all their kids' names to Rick. So Eric K., now all his kids' names are Rick A., and they just go by Rick A. So I love it. Rick A.
Perfect. Yeah. So.
All right, Jayden Daniels played against a team that should be relegated. If you could do that, the Cleveland Browns. What an absolute cluster that outfit is. The defense is better than the offense because it has to be by default. Not Jayden's problem. 14 of 25, 238, 1 touchdown. Did have the interception in the red zone there. Looked like he got fooled when JOK made a great play going to his left. But the touchdown pass to, I think, De'Ami Brown down the right side, that was like a 50-yard handoff. Each and every week, he gets better. Each and every week, Cliff adds more things for him to do, and he seems to be doing them effortlessly. Rick, I keep coming back to this. You always have an option in this offense because of what Jayden can do with his feet. Your thoughts?
Yeah, and I'll be quick here, is that first throw to his right, rolling out to his right that he hit McLaurin on, was a big boy throw. I don't know how many quarterbacks can make that type of throw. And he did miss a couple of throws that he hasn't missed in some earlier games, but I'm not going to kill him for that. The one thing that has impressed me the most is, and what he has learned, and listening to Cliff Kingsbury and Dan Quinn, is that when he scrambles and he gets to the second level, he's either sliding or a lot of times he's running to the boundary because he's faster than everybody else, and he doesn't take hits. He'll step out of bounds. And he's taking care and preserving his body, which is rare to see with a rookie who has that much talent with the ball in his hands when he's running. So I give him kudos for being smart, because he knows the whole Commander's season is if he's a quarterback or not. They don't have him a quarterback because I think they're still rebuilding. They're not what they are right now. And watching him through every game so far, because we talk about these guys every week, I don't know if I've seen a better rookie quarterback than this guy, including C.J. Stroud last year.
Oh, all right. I'll get Mike's reaction to that, number one. And number two, I want to read you this stat from Next Gen Stats. Daniels was blitzed 52% of the time last week, not surprisingly, with Jim Schwartz as the DC over there in Cleveland. His highest rate in the game this season, but he was sacked twice, but he completed 8 of 12 passes for 150 yards against the blitz, which is also incredibly impressive. Mike, what has impressed you the most with Jayden over the first month and change of the season?
I think it's just how he moves the offense, right? He can play, and in this one, Rick said, like, this wasn't his best game at all. It wasn't even close. Like, he missed a number of throws, had a really bad decision in the red zone, but end of the game, they have 30 plus on the scoreboard. And it's like, well, where did that come from? It's like, well, it's because he keeps them on schedule with his legs. When there are broken plays, he's out of the pocket and can turn into 20 yards right off the rip. And then what he did against the blitz, like some of the anticipatory throws he had, guys bearing down on him, were just things that, I'm not even sure he did consistently at LSU. So you've really seen progression from what he did in college. So yeah, this game was the one that really, to me, was like, okay, he's played some bad defenses. He's really turned them up. This is the one where this is not a bad defense. This is a very talented defense. And for him to just kind of walk down the field consistently. Yeah, I agree with Rick on the part. It's hard you can't ignore it. Like, it's, maybe Stroud did some things as a passer that were more impressive early on in his career, but his rushing threat is unbelievable. It's truly a game changer in what he can do with his legs, that if you don't account for it, you're just going to get points put up on the scoreboard repeatedly.
All right, I'm going to ask you this, Mike, because Rick hates hypotheticals. Give me the middiest of mid teams right now in the NFL, offensively.
Mid, like the most average team offensively? Maybe like the Eagles, who are about as average as it gets.
Love it. Shot at Debo. Okay, so you have the Eagles. Right now, starting today for the next 5 years, would you rather have C.J. Stroud or Jayden Daniels?
Jayden Daniels.
Rick?
Are you kidding me? I'm all in on Jayden Daniels. I'm
going for that too. The
Yes.
number of names you get paid to say. Debo, where are you? Who are you taking?
The guy that's not in the division right now, I'm taking CJ.
Oh.
He just can't give any credit.
I think
come back to
Jaden's
bite
a
him
little
if he
too close for Jalen for Devo to feel like he's cheating on Jalen. That is wild though. So you guys. So let me ask you this way. I'm trying to get a sense of how big the gap is. So let's say 10 is the perfect quarterback. On that scale, Mike, tell me where Jayden currently is and where CJ currently is.
So here's the thing. It's, when you run like he does, you don't have to play quarterback perfectly. Like Stroud, from a drop back pass perspective, is better. I think fairly comfortably say that, but you have to put 8 in the box against Jayden Daniels where they run every single time and you can't stop it, right? So you have to. That gives you you have 1-on-1s on the outside by default just because that's who Jayden Daniels is. And then we throw the best go ball in the game and like he's not missing those throws. Well, then there's nothing, you have no recourse. You really don't against this offense. He has something that can beat you any which way. So perfect quarterback. I mean, there's like deficiencies to his game for sure. And like he's missing some open guys at times over the middle of the football field that CJ Stroud would easily hit, but it doesn't matter when you have as good as the two things that he is just exceptional at, which is accuracy, go balls, rushing, that just no one's going to be able to stop it. No one has enough to stop it.
All right. So 10 is perfect. Is Jayden a 9, 8.5?
Sure. I go 9, I guess.
All right. Then, so where do we put CJ? I just want to get a sense of where we're at here.
CJ probably 8 plus.
Okay. No, I think that's right.
He's very good.
Rick, are you willing to grade? Or are you being evacuated?
No, I'm just think something popped up here. So, it's just a storm surge, but we're fine.
All right. Just put on your little yellow.
I'm giving a 9.9 to Jayden and a 9.0 to CJ.
All right. A couple other guys, Debo wants to get your feedback on. So I'll ask you both. I'll start with you, Mike, and you just say yes, Jayden, or no, the name I'm going to tell you. So we got CJ. You guys are taking Jayden.
Rookie season only, Ryan.
Rookie season only. So go back to that. Get your mind right. All right, Jayden or Andrew Luck, Mike?
Ooh, that one's tough. I'll probably go Andrew Luck.
Rick?
Jayden.
This is going to be easy. All right, 2011 Cam Newton, Mike. He balled out during the holdout or whatever it was called at the time. He went crazy.
Yeah, so I'll probably go Cam.
Oh, Rick?
Jayden.
Don't need to ask you. All right, Justin Herbert.
Jayden.
Because Justin came in after they tried to kill Tyrod with the stab to the chest, and he should have beaten the Chiefs in that debut, I believe is what it was.
Yeah, well, to me, Justin Jefferson got robbed of Rookie of the Year, so I'm going to defend my guy.
All right. Russ Wilson, who actually is the embodiment of Fit Matters in Seattle. Mike?
Jayden.
Yeah.
Jayden.
Rick, you going to roll on?
No, my complete answer for every hypothetical question you're asking right now, which I hate, is Jayden Daniels, no matter who you throw at.
Two more.
Throw Bart Starr in there. How would Bart Starr do in his rookie year?
He wasn't as athletic as I want him to be. Couple more here, Mike. Big Ben. Won 15 straight, if I recall correctly.
I just don't remember enough to say either way there.
I remember that.
Have some intellectual honesty and say I didn't watch close enough.
You hear that, Rick? Intellectual honesty.
They had a great defense. They ran the ball well.
Yeah.
Now, Ben played well, but he didn't carry a team. No one carried a team like Jayden Daniels is carrying the Washington Commanders.
Wasn't he like the only rookie to lead the NFL in yards per attempt, or am I?
So I don't know about that, but I remember that season quite well. He came in week 2, maybe. They played the Ravens. They were getting boat raced. Tommy Maddox came out. Ben came in. That might have been week 1 because he won 15 straight. And it was a lot of running the ball. It was a lot of, I mean, you talk about Caleb Williams' hero ball. That's all that was. There was no structure to that offense. All right. I'm taking Big Ben out of sentimental reasons. And finally, and Rick, you can weigh in on this, and we'll see how intellectually honest Mike wants to be. Dan Marino, 1983. That's what Debo threw in there.
Jayden. He was a better athlete than Marino.
He was slinging it, man. Slinging it. All right, Mike's
too young for my time.
Mike's going to pass on that.
Didn't exist.
How far are we along, Debo? 49? Let's see here. Oh, yeah. So let's see about that. We can get to the mock draft quickly. We'll figure that out. Let's get to the rest of these names. So Jayden's obviously a pop. Love it. Let's talk about some offensive rookies of the week. And Rick, let's start with Brian Thomas Jr., who was drafted second half of the first round because, we were at the pro day. Everything was about Malik. We talked to Malik and Jayden at the combine. They both said they were faster than everyone else among the trio between Malik, Brian, and Jayden. All Brian Thomas has done is catch passes, and he's doing it from the slot. He's doing it from outside. No surprise that he's catching balls deep. The touchdown he had, the 85-yarder, he hit 22 miles an hour, which Rick can't hit on his electric bike. And according to Next Gen Stats, Brian Thomas Jr. leads all rookies in deep receptions 4 and receiving yards at 140, and his 13.7 yards of average route depth ranks 3rd deepest among rookie wide receivers, only behind Xavier Worthy and Marvin Harrison Jr. The only thing I'd like to see, Rick, is a little more strength in contested catch situations. He dropped a 4th and 2 and then dropped a little curl there in the 4th quarter. Otherwise, man, home run pick.
He is much improved as a route runner. I give the coaching staff credit for that because I thought that was one of the areas that he needed to improve coming out. There's no question about his speed. Even though it looked like a sloppy field down there, he was running pretty well. And 22 miles an hour. I can hit 20 on my electric bike. And I actually, Mike, you didn't know this, hit a stop sign going 20 miles an hour on an electric bike and got hit. I've never been hit like that my entire life.
Why did you hit a stop sign?
I looked down because I thought there was something in the bike path. And so I swerved around the turtle because we save turtles on the island.
Oh, it was a turtle. Okay.
And when I looked up, I ran smack into the stop sign, went over top the stop sign, landed luckily in the grass. People were pulling over, seeing if I was okay. I was giving them the thumbs up, having no idea where. I thought I was on the podcast. I had no idea where I was at.
Hey, Debo, how much would you pay to see that? 'Cause I would pay a lot of money to see Rick hit a stop sign at 20 miles an hour.
Stop signs do not move.
It says it right there on the sign. Stop. It's not moving. All right. Top that, Mike.
I can't. That sounds horrible, honestly. That's
horrible's one word for it.
Yeah,
Hilarious is another word.
Yeah.
But
yeah, Brian Thomas Jr. That guy, I think I tweeted earlier this week, like if we were doing a redraft, I don't see how he doesn't go top 10 right now. Like he is exactly what you want in today's NFL, right? You want that guy that just commands attention because how fast he is. It's just the explosiveness and speed is off the charts. And then, you know, being fast is one thing, explosive is one thing, but then you can counter off that with the deep comebacks and the deep hitches that most guys his size, you know, when he's bigger, 6'3", 6'4", 200-plus pounders, they usually struggle at, and he's not at all. So, and it's still like him and Malik Neighbors, when you just watch them, like they're still raw. Like they still have room to improve, and like you think they have the physical traits to improve in that regard to where, yeah, they're doing this right now, but what are they going to look like year 2, year 3? It's really scary to think about. And yeah, that LSU team last year, everyone's like, was Malik Neighbors responsible for it? And was Brian Thomas responsible for it? Or was Jayden Daniels responsible for it? Oh, it turns out they were all just like insanely good, kind of like 2019 LSU.
And that's a good thing to keep in mind when we go back next during this draft cycle and say so-and-so has so many good weapons. How do we know how it translates? Well, it turns out it can actually translate if you're a good football player. What are you going to say, Rick?
Yeah, I'd just say note to self that LSU receivers have a pretty good success rate coming out as rookies and down the line. This, to me, he's the only rookie receiver better than him right now is Malik Neighbors.
Oh, wow. You didn't say Marvin, so that's credit to you for being honest.
Yeah.
How long ago did you hit the stop sign? I didn't mean to laugh at you if you're still suffering from concussion-like symptoms.
Oh, it was like about 2 months ago. Note to self, and for anyone listening out there, do not ride a bike without a helmet because that saved me on a serious note.
Good. Okay, I'm glad you wore a helmet. Man, they do
My
make
dad
training
actually got
wheels.
hit by a truck on a bike once.
Who
He
did?
told me just never ride a bike. My dad, he got hit by a truck, woke up in the hospital. He
Holy
said,
Moses.
just don't ride a bike in the city. It's not worth it.
Yeah, all right, we need to go down that road. Yeah, well, I'm glad your dad's okay. I'm glad Rick's okay. Uh-oh, are you okay, Rick?
Yeah, that's Bo Nix's agent. Really pissed off.
He is angry. That's Mike prank calling you. All right, let's keep going with these Rookie of the Weeks. Let's turn to the defensive side of the ball, and let's talk about.
Don't you love doing these podcasts in the middle of a hurricane with the warnings and alerts going off? This is awesome.
Hey, just as long as you stay safe. Let's go to Merry Old England, unless you're Robert Saleh. Leonard Taylor III, who I believe I had as a top 50 guy 12 months ago. He went undrafted. Part of it was effort, and I think part of it was some off-field stuff. but he made the team, and he had a nice little outing against the Minnesota Vikings. Certainly a better day than Robert Saleh ended up having. One tackle, one missed tackle, one sack, 2 pressures. And I thought he's a little better against the pass and the run. And it seems to be the case with a lot of these young defensive linemen. But he showed that he could overpower the center, ran a little stunt from outside there. Great hustle sack against Sam Darnold. My reason for putting him on this list is that he's a nice little find as an undrafted free agent. And I thought he had a good little showing and took advantage of his opportunities. And Rick, you can talk about, you get some guy that you sign off the street because he didn't get drafted. And then when they flash like this as a rookie, that certainly has to make you feel good about at least the depth.
Yeah, no, I watched him. I even went back. He's only played in 2 games this year. I went back and watched him against New England where he had a sack in New England game as well. And you saw the flashes 2 years ago on this kid because we had him in, top 50, and then he didn't play as well his last year before he came out for whatever reason. I do think that he still needs to play better versus the run. A couple of times he got thrown out of the bar, especially when they came off and combo blocked him. But as a wave inline pass rusher, he's given him some juice inside.
How'd you like him last draft season, Mike, and what'd you think about this performance?
I had him right at the end of my top 100. I think when a guy, especially at defensive tackle, when you flash the way he did, I believe it's a redshirt freshman. I don't think he played freshman year, but back, I guess, the year before. When you do what you did at that age, it's like that's usually the guys that, even if they went backwards or didn't have the best year before they came out, that it still speaks to the talent. And especially at defensive tackle where it's such a physically demanding position, if you're that good early on, it's a good signal. So I was still willing to bet on it. I couldn't believe he went undrafted. And I think a big reason why he did, or just his tape wasn't as good, was he was playing nose tackle last year for Miami. And you look at his frame, he's like pure 3 technique frame. Like the guy's got a frame of like an edge rusher. He's got a real skinny lower half. He's just not built to hold up to double teams. And that's fine though with where he ended up, right? The Jets, like it's just penetration, and that's what he always could do at Miami. So really good. Like if you're a Jets fan, to find any guy as a UDFA, especially at DT, that can make an impact, you gotta be happy as heck, because that's a tough position that everyone's looking to find impact from nowadays.
So let's talk about some year 2 spotlight players, and I'm guessing these guys are pop because I have them as rookie of the weeks for their respective side of the balls. But in terms of year 2 spotlight players, let's stay on defense. Let's stay along the defensive line. Let's go to Chicago. Jervon Dexter. He flashed a little bit, had 6 pressures according to Next Gen Stats. He generated a career high, 5 pressures and 1 sack on 20 pass rushes against the Panthers. Dexter's 14 pressures this season are the most on the Bears, and ranks tied for 6th most among defensive tackles entering Sunday afternoon. And this is important for a couple of reasons, Rick. Number one, they passed on Debo's Jalen Carter last year, and there's a lot of hand-wringing about that. They ended up taking Darnell Wright in the draft. And the hope was that in round 2, Jervon Dexter would come along. I think he was up and down last year, but we were at this pro day, and he looked the part, and he tested well and did all the things that you want a defensive tackle to do in terms of workouts. But it seems like he's starting to put it together. Had a hustle sack against Andy Dalton. One of the issues was his motor coming out of Florida. You see his motor show up. It seems play in and play out. So not necessarily super twitchy, but a high motor guy. He plays with power, and he gets after it until the whistle. So I was pretty encouraged by what I saw.
Yeah, I remember us watching him down there move at the pro day when we were at Florida a couple years ago. And there's no question about his size. This guy is a very good athlete, in my opinion. He's twitchier than you think. What he's learned as an inline pass rusher is working the edges of blockers. Before watching him last year, he rushes down the middle. Now he knows how to work the edges of the blockers. And once he gets an edge, he shows that burst. But the biggest, most impressive thing to me is that he plays with effort and grit, where you didn't see that in college. But it goes back to what we talked about on this podcast before, Ryan Wilson, is that we sometimes downgrade these guys because of the effort that we see in college, but they're playing 70, 80 snaps a game. This kid is in a rotation. He's playing maybe 15, 20 snaps a game, and he's taking advantage of those opportunities, and he's playing hard. So I don't think there was any question about the physical traits. It could have been some off-field concerns, which I don't know about. But a lot of it was the grit and energy that he played with. But you got to remember, you're playing in the middle of Gainesville in September and October, and you're playing 70, 80 snaps a game. That's going to that monkey's going to jump on your back.
Hey, Rick, Mike, let me ask you: do you feel better, worse, and different about the Darnell Wright, Trevon Dexter draft situation, or would Jalen Carter have been a better choice?
I still think Jalen Carter would have been a better
Okay.
choice.
Fair enough.
With Trevon Dexter, I think he's a solid interior DT. With Jalen Carter now, obviously, like locker room, how you want to build your team, whatever. He's even this year having playing really well, still kind of been a guy that they're showing on the sidelines, arguing with people and whatnot. That maybe you just don't want that guy anywhere near your football team. Given
Debo's
his
hero,
history.
by the way.
But the man can rush the passer when he's asked to, right? Like he's a guy that one-on-one against a lesser OG, he's winning that every time.
Okay. All right. Let's go to Tank Bixby, year 2 spotlight player number 2. And Mike, I'll start with you because I can watch all his little snaps there. I called it a slow burn at first because he was getting a couple yards, falling forward, and then he just ripped a couple. Jacksonville kept running duo, and that's how he got the first touchdown run, running through arm tackles. And then the second one, Next Gen Stats had a fun little fact on this one. He was expected to gain -3 yards on that, which was, I think, was a counter play. Ended up going for 65, and he hit 21 miles an hour, fastest speed as a ball carrier in his career. So this third-round pick last year, this is a nice compliment to Trevor Etienne, and it certainly helps Trevor Lawrence not have to do everything in an offense that looked more like an offense than it had over the previous month.
Well, and with running backs, we usually think it's a position that year one they can just hit the ground running, and that's like who they are then the rest of the years. He was terrible last year. He was legitimately like 2 picks came off his hands. They couldn't put him on the field because he kept fumbling. There was just it was as bad a start as you could probably have for a rookie drafted as high as he was. And so the turnaround's been massive, but it's like that bounce that he has laterally is so good on those duo runs that he could just kind of press the hole and then immediately bounce to the hole that's open and not lose any speed. And it's such a far cry from Etienne, who's so much more of a linear guy. Like he's a one-cut linear, can't really, when he tries to get lateral, it's not. He has to kind of bounce all the way out. He can't just do that little bounce and then get back up the football field. So definitely much more of a full-time bell cow type of back than Etienne's ever been for them.
Rick, was Singleton, you were thinking about the Tank comp for him? Is that right? Or was that someone else that we watched, the Penn State running back?
Yeah, I can't remember. I liked Tank when he came out at Auburn, but I can't remember my comp for him. What I do like about him is he can make a jump cut for a bigger back and then get upfield. What I don't like is when he gets muddy in line and he makes that jump cut, it almost loses his power and base. So when he can make that cut, jump, and then get accelerating up the field rather than going laterally, he's much more effective. And he's very rarely used in the passing game. I understand they have Etienne, but he caught a nice little screen route for another explosive play. I didn't see him in any pass pro protection opportunities, but he shows you for a big back, he has some explosive speed in the backfield, but he's much better going vertically, in my opinion, because it keeps his power. He's got better run and contact balance, and he's going forward. Sometimes he does too many lateral cuts, which takes away his power and his ability to go forward.
Is that the wind whipping on the lanai out there? Is that noise?
Yeah, it's the wind whipping. It's the water. It's
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Put on your slicker and your
We're just so you know, we're officially in the middle of an outer band right now.
Oh, you are? Okay. Well, stay safe.
Yeah.
All right, let's get out of here quickly on this then, so you can go do things that don't involve being directly in the line of a hurricane. My mock draft 2.0 came out on Monday. Mike and I talked about it briefly on HQ on Tuesday, but I'll ask a couple questions and we can get out of here so we're not here all day. Mike, I'll start with you because I would imagine you'll be more positive than Rick. I could be wrong. Tell me a pick that you liked and a pick that you hated. We can go there.
I like Mason Graham to the Bengals at 2. I just think that guy has, we talked about a lot of these defensive linemen when we went through the positional series, and I think a lot of them haven't lived up to kind of what we thought of them early on, especially in this edge class. But him at DT is one that's just like, he looks the part of top 5 DT, whether it's, the guys that have gone before, Quinn Williams. I'm trying to think of the one who was before that, the top 5 defensive tackle. But that's what you want to see when you're drafting a guy that highly at the position. What I didn't love is Jalen Milroe. I just don't think he's there yet as a passer.
Fair enough.
And we've seen the dynamism and how much it matters, and he really is like a Jayden Daniels-esque rushing threat. He's that dynamic.
Hey, let me ask you
He's
this,
going to
Mike.
impact the games.
Rick disagrees with me on this. At this point in their college journeys on the way to the NFL, is Jalen Milroe ahead of, even to, or behind Anthony Richardson?
Gosh, so I think he's behind just
Interesting. Rick agrees
because
with
he's still one is like just tools wise, he doesn't have near the arm. How he plays in the pocket is
Rick,
still,
who has a better arm?
They both got very strong arms, in my opinion. So go ahead, Crawl Dad Mike.
And I just think from the pocket, you either have deep balls or scrambles. Like his pocket movement is scramble, whereas Richardson can like navigate tight quarters much better, in my opinion, or could at least at Florida. So, I mean, I think Milroe, he does have a good arm. Not like I don't think it's a knock on him whatsoever, but like Anthony Richardson.
You told me offline that you thought Jalen Milroe's arm was Mac Jones-like. I think that's the word you used. He didn't say that. Let me just clarify. I had Jalen Milroe going 4. He was the first QB off the board, Rick. But here's why. I can't envision the situation where Shedeur goes to Cleveland. I'm just being honest. I don't have any inside knowledge, just speculating. So that's why Shedeur's my QB1. But I had Jalen going there. Lord willing, Kevin Stefanski can stay around. Who knows if that happens? I think he could get the most out of Jalen, and I think Jalen continues to progress in the Kalen DeBoer offense, and he's going to be a lot better at the end than he was at the beginning of that journey. Rick, give me a pick you liked and you hated.
Can I go through all the ones I hate?
Start with liked in case you get cut out with the internet.
Yeah, I did like the Graham pick to Cincinnati. I think he's a no-brainer. Another one I like, and everybody's going to disagree, but I actually agreed with you on this. How about our running back from Boise State going in the top 10? Boy,
you okay with that, Mike?
On him, he is unique. He is a unique
in this class. In this class, you can draft him in the first round for sure.
So Ash and Jenny had him going to the Titans, just so we're clear. So people, And Titans fans push back because there are other needs. You're not taking an offensive lineman if Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks are off the board here. And I think Genty simplifies things for Will Levis if you're rolling with him. That was my thought process there.
Right. Well, you had the 2 tackles off, so that's why I like the pick. But if those tackles were there, you have to take one of them. So
all right, what'd you hate?
Okay, Jacksonville. I'd rather have Compton over Banks.
Hold on. Let me make sure I tell people what we're doing here. So at third, Kelvin Banks Jr. You'd rather have Will Campbell.
Yep, I would.
The offensive tackles, one out of Texas, who's better, by the way. Kevin Banks is better than Will Campbell right now at LSU, but that's okay. What else you
got? I would. No way would I have Jalen Milroe going 4 overall to Cleveland. That's just absolutely insane.
You didn't say asinine, so that's a win for me. What else you got?
No, I'm saving those terms for later down there.
All right, what else?
I hate Cam Ward over Sanders and Beck going to Carolina.
All right, just to be clear, you don't hate Cam Ward. You hate the pick of Cam Ward going to Carolina.
I hate the pick of Cam Ward going to Carolina over Shadir Sanders or Carson Beck.
Okay, let me get Mike's pushback because Mike thinks Carson Beck might be a second-round pick, and I don't think Mike's far off. So, Mike, are you okay with Cam Ward going 6th overall to the Carolina Panthers?
I think when it's all said and done, Cam Ward's going to be my top quarterback in this draft.
Okay.
I think he has that. It's the calm that he plays with. And there was that clip, I think it was this past week against Cal, where he's literally calling for a flag as he's pointing to the 12th man running off the football field as he's in his drop back. And it's just like a guy that has that level of mental acuity where he is just in full command of the game. And then he threw a seam ball like over a linebacker between the safety. I'm going to bet on that guy to figure it out. And then when you talk about like his physical talent, it's right up there with anyone else in this draft. So that's why I'm a fan of him. He's not there yet, but I'm a fan. Yeah, I would take him that high.
Okay. All right, Rick, continue with your hatred of the latest mock draft here.
Yeah, well, Mike, was he pointing to the sideline or pointing to the guy that he threw across his body all the way across the field for the dumb interception at the beginning of the third quarter? So it's either feast or famine with this guy, and what's feast is very, very feisty. Festive feisty.
How much different is he than Caleb, though, right now, in terms of Caleb coming out and being not on time?
I think Caleb was better in a pocket than he was, especially 2 years ago, where he was better through his progressions. Although Cam has gotten better and way different than what we saw at Washington State.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love Cam.
I could see him rising.
Can I say one thing about Cam?
Yes,
like,
of course.
When you have projects and like guys that are loose, I'll bet on the guy that came from, so he played like 8-man football in high school, then went to Incarnate Word and then Washington State, where it's like he wasn't getting quarterback sort of coaching the way, kind of like how Josh Allen, just like he wasn't getting what you get at a big high school, at a big college program until now. And so that's like, I'm more forgiving of guys like that than say like a Malik Willis who had every opportunity to develop and just didn't at the levels he was at.
Malik won you games at Green Bay, Mike. I believe you need to keep that in mind. Super disrespectful.
I can't hate too much, but for the Titans' perspective, he ain't doing much for them.
Mike, are you willing to commit on this show right now today that you will not call for Cam Ward to be benched after 2 weeks if he's in the NFL next year and struggles early?
I didn't call for anyone to be benched. I never call for anyone.
All right, Rick, a couple more. We'll get you out of here. What else do you hate?
The Giants, really? Ewers? That guy can't. Ewers, he can't even stay healthy. He's never on the field. How can you put him ahead of Beck? Nussmeier over Beck at 16? I can't take it anymore. I can't take the hatred for Beck. Did you watch him this week against Auburn? I went back and watched him against Auburn.
Yeah.
And he played much better than he did in the first half versus Kentucky.
Well, he would have to.
Well, he played good in the second half versus Kentucky. Yeah. And Auburn, he came back, and that game didn't affect him. He came back and bounced back.
I will be honest. I had 6 quarterbacks go in this draft. I'm pretty sure 6 aren't going. I would set the over-under at 3.5, 4 by the time we're all said and done. But this is, we're in early October. Any non-quarterbacks you hated, or just the quarterbacks?
I hated every quarterback that you put up there, and plus the East Carolina corner, who I thought is talented.
He's a good player,
but he's his ACL and his knee on backwards right now, so I don't think
they're going to fix it. They're going to fix it.
Okay.
What about Josh Simmons, tackle out of Ohio State, going to Baltimore at 26? You probably love that.
Ooh, I just did him. So you talk about a guy making a 360 as a 180.
180. A 360 is what you did when you hit the stop sign.
I watched him at San Jose State at right tackle. Then I watched him at left tackle at Ohio State last year. And then I'm watching him this year at Ohio State. Now, they haven't played against top level. It's going to be a big test coming up against Oregon this weekend. But this kid has made tremendous strides each year. And I was taken back when I did. I had to do all the games on him because I'm heading to Ohio State this weekend. But this kid has made the biggest jump out of anyone. He's physical in the run game. He is much more patient in pass protection. I'm anxious to see him against some better competition as we go down the road here and some more elite pass rushers and the guys that we saw, from Akron. And I tried to even go back, Ryan, to look at the who was the kid, Mike Reed or Mike
Green
from Marshall.
That's Renner's guy.
Yeah, but they rarely matched up. All of his production Reed's production came on the right side. So I was hoping to see that matchup. I didn't see enough, but I've been thoroughly impressed with this kid. And word on the street is that this guy is climbing up. So he has everything set up to be a first-round pick, but he's got to continue and maintain this consistency as the starting this weekend against Oregon.
All right, Mike, get us out on this player that should have gone in round 1 but wasn't on my mock draft.
Oh gosh, trying to think who have I really.
Well, if you don't have any names, that's fine. I'll take that as a win.
I'll say Joshua Joseph's going to end up in the round 1 conversation at the end of the year.
Position and
Tennessee edge rusher.
Oh, okay. Making a note. Love to see it.
Maybe. We'll see.
All right.
I also think Drew Aller might end up round 1.
Come on. Stop. We can't. We're not doing the show.
You're doing good. You gave us a name we hadn't heard yet, and then you came with the Drew Aller stuff. Debo hit him with the shock therapy. He had to say it. Drew Aller. Come on, Debo.
He's got a hose. The man. He's got.
I love Drew Aller, but if you don't trust him to play against Illinois, throw the ball. You lean on the running backs, and you have the friggin' tight end playing Wildcat. Those are warning signs to me. I like Drew Aller. I don't think it's first round. Debo, is Drew Aller going to go in the first round?
Yeah, top 10.
All right, there you go, top 10. All right, that's it. That's a wrap on episode 187. As always, thanks to my guy, Rick. Stay safe, Rick. Thanks to Mike for hopping on, and thanks to Debo for producing. Thanks to all you guys who watch, listen, and comment. On Thursday, by the way, going to roll out the old updated WTFP college QB rankings. Going to be some changes, according to Rick. Going to take a deep dive on some of these freshman standouts as well. Arch Manning, Nico Iamaleava, Dylan Raiola, Jeremiah Smith, and Ryan Williams. We got you covered. So see you then.